Quote, "Taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society." Close quote. That was Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr. Let's take a moment and parse that phrase. We all know what taxes are. We all know what a price is. And we all know what pay means. It's the last part that has me concerned about where we are, and even more concerned about where we're headed. Here's the Merriam-Webster definition of civilized. It's an adjective, marked by well-organized laws and rules about how people behave with each other. Polite, reasonable, and respectful. Pleasant and comfortable. Let's now contrast that with how several past administrations have politely, reasonably, and respectfully behaved with those with whom it disagrees. Lyndon Johnson often used the tax collection agency, the Internal Revenue Service, to punish his many enemies. Those whose names made their way onto Richard Nixon's infamous enemies list suffered microscopic scrutiny of the IRS. But not until Barack Obama have entire groups and organizations been subjected to wholesale abuse by an IRS now dominated by socialist apparatchiks, whose goal is Obama's radical transformation of the United States into something the founders would not recognize and, in fact, linguistically struggled in the Constitution to prevent. Yes, taxes are the price we pay for a civilized society. But how are we to think about and deal with a society that operates under the rule of the jungle, where too many of its members no longer behave politely, reasonably, and respectfully? I'll leave the answer to that vital question to you, but my answer is to scrap this abusive and unfair system of taxation of incomes, by the way, a key plank of the Communist Manifesto, more suited to a third world dictatorship, and replace it with a tax on consumption, the fair tax. The link to the fair tax website is now on the screen. Please don't fall for the lies about the fair tax being told by those who have a huge vested interest in keeping us in bondage to the current system. Do your own due diligence. Let me wrap this with a personal story. At a cocktail party back in 1987, I struck up a chat with a fellow I'd met on one or two previous occasions. His name was Joe M. After my first encounter, Joe's neighbor and my boss at the time told me that Joe was an alcoholic who had just retired from 25 years with the IRS. Needless to say, I was guarded in expressing my political views to Joe, as the IRS had helped my dad into an early grave in 1977, at age 59, over an estate matter. Joe was pretty deep into his cups at the function in question and began telling IRS war stories. Most had to do with clear cases of criminal conduct by not very nice people. Joe, who was a few years short of 60 at the time, sounded to me like someone who enjoyed helping get really bad people off the street, and I asked why he'd retired early. He told me that what he called the service had changed for the worse. Then I asked him about the new people coming in. He shook his head, actually teared up, and said that many of them were, quote, really bad, close quote. I pressed. Really bad meant incompetent? No. Dangerous, he responded. They like to hurt people. It was then that I think I understood why Joe drank. Now, if you'll excuse me, I believe I now need a drink. Until next time.